The Prigozhin's coup. What happened? Prigozhin and Putin. This is what we're going to talk about today. We will look closely in the relationship between Prigozhin and Putin, talk in general about the coup itself, you can call it mutiny or rebellion if you like, and see what is happening now. Prigozhin actually made a new speech, which I will mention, and we will find out who were financing the Wagner Group, why I can't call it PMC, so it's not a private military company, as it turned out to be, and a few surprises awaits in the future of this video, in the continuation of this video. And I want to underline that I never supported Putin or Prigozhin. They are very bad, both of them, and I don't know who is worse. So I definitely didn't want Prigozhin to win, and I clearly stated it in my live stream during the Wagner Group coup, which you're welcome to see on my channel. Let's dive into it. And I want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Elena. Welcome to my political channel Enough of Propaganda, where I am as a Russian and Canadian citizen, the person who came to Canada from Russia 19 years ago and did extensive research about the war in Ukraine and Russian aggression in there, providing information, facts, and truth about that. And I want to say that this is my informed opinion, and I'm providing you the facts and how that opinion was formed. And I'm providing you facts you can verify, because I have my own sources in Russia, in Ukraine, and in many other places in the world. And that is why I can't provide everything, but I can provide the sources you can verify. And I'm not a machine. I'm not news. I am a person, a human being with my own feelings, and I'm very angry about this war, and I'm very upset that one of my countries, Russia, doing all of this in Ukraine, doing it to Ukrainians, doing it to Russian people as well. And I'm fighting Putin and his propaganda for years now. And that is why I'm passionate about this. And this is how it is.
Смертельная угроза для нашей государственности.
А это громче, чем передрягой, трудно назвать.
Prigozhin's coup and the Wagner PMC relationship with the Russian state. On the evening of June 23, 2023, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who you can see on this picture, the head of the Wagner private military company, or PMC, announced that Russian forces attacked the bases of his company and launched an attack and basically shelled them. And that's why he declared the armed conflict with the Ministry of Defense of Russia. Prigozhin called for revenge and basically screamed insults at the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. Prigozhin proclaimed so-called March of Justice. And the next morning, Wagner PMC already blockaded military infrastructure of the city Rostov-on-Don, which is over 1 million people city. And in this, in my previous videos, he is speaking about capturing the headquarters of the Russian so-called special military operation in Ukraine headquarters. At the same time, he grabbed the deputy of Minister of Defense of Russia and high-ranked general of GRU. Russian President Vladimir Putin was hiding. He left Moscow. Basically, both of planes of President of Russia was absent. There were information that he went to St. Petersburg or something like that. So this was serious. It was very serious threat to Russia. And Prigozhin not only captured Rostov, but also Voronezh and other people, over 1 million people city in Russia. And basically get to Moscow. About 200 kilometers, he only didn't get right into Moscow. 200 kilometers and he would be right in Kremlin. And but President Putin only appeared on TV over 10 hours later, like up to 15 hours. And he addressed the nation, denounced the events as a betrayal, and promised that the traitors and organizers of the rebellion will be held accountable and punished. Russian authorities revealed that there were negotiations between Russian government and Yevgeny Prigozhin and his group. President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, get involved. And later the same evening, Yevgeny Prigozhin announced that he was withdrawing his troops and returning them into so-called base camps. And so he left Moscow and went to the base camps or field camps. And Prigozhin now is facing charges, according to Russian law, Article 279 of the Russian Criminal Code, called armed rebellion. And maximum sentence, it carrying maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. However, Putin and his words about traitors would be punished turned out to be another lie.
Тот, кто организовал и готовил военный мятеж, кто поднял оружие на боевых товарищей, предали Россию и ответят за это.
Putin proposed options for Wagner PMC members. He was so tough and so, everybody would be punished. It's just horrible for our state. It's just a horrible situation. We are in danger. And now all of a sudden, he changed his tune completely and offered three options for Wagner PMC troops. Either sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense and basically go fighting in Ukraine again, to continue serving, or return home, or basically to their families, or go to Belarus, to the neighboring country, where the leader is Alexander Lukashenko.
Сегодня у вас есть возможность продолжить службу России, заключив контракт с Министерством обороны или другими силовыми органами, либо вернуться к своим родным и близким. Кто хочет, сможет уйти в Белоруссию. Данное мною обещание будет исполнено.
I want to underline that Prigozhin wasn't punished. Prigozhin mutiny or coup wasn't suppressed. It wasn't squashed. Prigozhin and Putin just strike a deal, and Prigozhin give up because he get some sort of a personal assurances, which I don't see why would he trust Putin. But he knows what he's doing probably, or he just was blackmailed in any way. He has a family, as far as I know. He has 3 children. You never know. In Russia, it's just such an immoral, evil state which can do anything. That is why it's absolutely useless to listen what Putin has to say. He lies all the time, and this video is one of more proofs of that, and you will see it a little bit later. So there is no point to trust Putin whatsoever, and Prigozhin knows it. There is no point to trust Prigozhin either. He proclaimed so-called March of Justice, and yet he dumped his supporters, which they will be tortured and killed, one way or another. Putin can pretend that he is okay with it. He's not. He will never forgive Prigozhin, even if, imagine a miracle that Putin wanted Prigozhin to make this happen, that coup, and ordered Prigozhin to make this coup. Putin will never forgive Prigozhin and his troops. Nobody of them. And if Prigozhin even maybe will get away with it, his troops, for a while, he's not gonna get away with it forever. If Putin is in power, he will kill Prigozhin. And Putin definitely will get rid of all the Prigozhin troops. And everybody who somehow could have interfered, but they didn't, and so on. So he will punish everyone who he think wronged him. He done it many times before. He will not stop about that. And he ran away during the coup, fled Moscow, and he was scared and ran away. And he will never forgive that, or forget, period. Putin even condemned by Igor Girkin, also known as Strelkov.
Таких случаев было множество. Мятежникам, которые ставили страну на грань гибели, обещали полную амнистию, потом тупо вешали. Я не призываю повесить Пригожина, хотя он того заслуживает. Но не наказать его совсем, это хуже преступления, чем нарушить слово. Если у нас в стране вообще президент думает не только о себе и своей, там, как говорится, своем окружении, что, скорее всего, и есть на самом деле, но и о государстве, то он не может оставить безнаказанным подобного рода выступление, которое поставило страну на грань гибели. Потому что он демонстрирует свое бессилие, полное бессилие. И показывает, что так можно. Пробуйте, ребята, пробуйте еще. А если не получится, вам ничего не грозит. Потому что я бесхребетная мокрица. И не могу наказать тех, кто заставил меня, собрав манатки, бежать в самолет и срочно улетать в Петербург.
Girkin Strelkov is a criminal, is a war criminal, and he wanted by International Criminal Court. But in this case, he told the truth, and I agree with him on that, because Putin really ran away. He was afraid, and Russian army failed, Russian state failed completely to defend Russia from that so-called rebellion, mutiny, coup, whatever it was. Putin failed, and even Girkin Strelkov understand that. And the criminal Girkin Strelkov just said that's what Russia always do. They promise one thing, and then they get back on their word and kill them anyway. That's exactly what Putin gonna do. Just give him time. That is what I'm thinking gonna happen. Not only Girkin Strelkov is condemning Putin for his being, and Putin and his government, leaders of the Russian government, basically the Russian authorities. This is Igor Dmitriev, basically a traitor to Ukraine, who has his own channel and he's like Z-Patriot blogger. That's what he has to say.
О том, что попробуйте сейчас кому-то дозвониться, насколько это у вас получится.
Да. Каким-то важным людям попробуйте позвонить, чтобы спросить у них, что делать или что происходит. Нет, трубки никто не будет брать.
Basically, these men discussing that during the coup, not only Putin ran away, they say try to call somebody from anybody in power and try to talk to them over the phone. Nobody would pick up the phone. Everybody were hiding, put their ears down like a dog who did something wrong, like eat the master's boot or something like that, and expecting punishment. So they were kind of hiding. Everybody were hiding, and nobody wanted to take responsibility of anything. Because in Russia and in the USSR, if you did nothing, you will be less punished if you tried, did something, and failed. So that is why I worked in USSR, I lived in USSR, and in Russia, and this is how it is. Like, you don't take initiative, you'd rather be not noticeable and don't do anything. At least you'll be in less trouble than if you did something and it didn't work out. Who is Yevgeny Prigozhin? Yevgeny Prigozhin, widely known as a Putin chef, is a notorious figure who has been involved in various crimes and criminal activities and served multiple years behind bars for his actions. Alongside his business ventures, Prigozhin played a significant role in the Russian company group called known as Concord, and co-founder of Wagner Group, a mercenary organization active in military conflicts in Africa, Syria, Ukraine, and beyond. Prigozhin's infamous companies, including the Internet Research Agency, commonly referred as troll factories, have faced allegations in meddling of 2016 and 2018 United States elections. That fact Prigozhin himself confirmed. And the Internet Research Agency, also known as Trolls from Olgina, specializes in online propaganda and influence campaigns and promoting Russian business and political interests. These operations were ordered by Russian government, by Ministry of Defense, by FSB, and sometimes GRU, or Russian military intelligence. In addition to his covert activities, Prigozhin's company Concord provided catering services to high-ranking Russian officials. That's what earned him a nickname Putin's chef. And that's how media calls him, anyways. And interestingly, Prigozhin's journey began as basically a hot dog seller who has a few hot dog stands. Hot dog selling network, I would say. But his ambitions drive him to be engaged in criminal activity and war crimes, including orchestrating brutal executions and even stage coups in Africa and in Russia, apparently. And back in 1981, Prigozhin faced legal charges, and he was sentenced by the court 13 years in high-security correctional labor colony for his crimes. and the crimes were theft, robbery, fraud, and involving minors in the criminal activities. In 1988, he received a pardon, and eventually, around 1990, he became free man. Prigozhin and Putin, they're not different. Prigozhin is just one of the oligarchs, and not even high-rank oligarchs. He is basically, as much as all of them, is just a Putin's wallet. The money Putin has in Africa, and so is other Russian military and Russian oligarchs and so on. They have money through Prigozhin. Prigozhin holding their money for them as a wallet, basically. He helped them to obtain in Africa like gold mines. They can't get rid of Prigozhin. As far as I know, they didn't get rid of him for now. First of all, he might have on them compromising materials. That is true. But main thing, he holding their money. And he holding their power in Africa and letting them have that property like mines, gold mines and stuff like that. And he's valuable to them. He's not opposed to Putin. In a way, he is Putin himself. So Putin practically took money from one of his pockets and paid for the coup. And that is why he was so upset. You will see like he was complaining how much Russian government paid for the Wagner Group. This is done because Putin is upset. He's hurt. He's deeply hurt that his hand betrayed him. I give you so much and you dump me. This is the message Putin sent in his speech about the money. We'll talk about it in a minute. And the Wagner Group is not a private company, but Putin's personal army, funded by Russian budget. Putin distanced himself from the connection between Russia and Wagner for a while, and you will see that too. But after the rebellion, he not only acknowledged, but also disclosed special payment figures to the Wagner Group. Let's talk about money.
Если там и есть российские граждане, они не представляют интересов российского государства и денег от российского государства не получают. Ни российское государство, ни российская армия. Поэтому мы здесь ничего не комментируем.
From total denial, Putin now saying so much.
Содержание всей группы «Вагнер» полностью обеспечилось государством. Из Министерства обороны, из государственного бюджета мы полностью финансировали эту группу. Из них денежное содержание 70 миллиардов 384, стимулирующие выплаты 15 миллиардов 877, страховые выплаты 110 миллиардов 179 миллионов. Собственник компании «Конкорд» через военторг при всем том, что само содержание Вагнера было на плечах государства, за год собственник компании «Конкорд» через военторг получил, заработал от государства, поставляя продукты питания и оказывая услуги по питанию в армии, заработал 80 миллиардов рублей.
This is not just what the 86 billion he was talking about, just the Wagner PMC, but there is also Concord Group, as I told you. Russian TV host Yevgeny Kiselev said that Wagner received actually 10 times more, 858 billion rubles.
Основанная Евгением Пригожиным частная военная компания «Вагнер» в рамках заключенных с государством контрактов получила чуть более 858 миллиардов рублей. Это под триллион. По другим контрактам пригожинский холдинг «Конкорд» оказал услуг на сумму 845 миллиардов рублей.
This is Ilya Shumanov, General Director or CEO Transparency International Russia. He actually confirmed that it's possible. These numbers are quite real. It could be whatever Kiselev said. Even he lies all the time as well as all the Russian propagandists, but in this case, it's probably true. He's talking about it's not in 1 year, of course. It was about 10 years at least. So it is possible in that kind of time period. While I was making this video, the new information came about Yevgeny Prigozhin. This is a reliable source, Fontanka.ru, and it says that Yevgeny Prigozhin received back 10 billion rubles, which was found during a search in St. Petersburg. A couple days ago, investigating team had different ideas about this money. And as far as Fontanka says, Prigozhin didn't come for the money in person. He just sent his driver. And in the morning of July 2nd, the investigators wasn't going to do that. On the 24th of June, during the search, was found 10 billion rubles in cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and 5 gold bars. But by the end of the day, the decision was changed onto the opposite one, so they decided to return it back. I agree with the representatives of TV Rain that I'd like to know how much money Prigozhin made on Russian people, from Russian budget, from our Russian citizens' pockets. Russia. Consequences of the Wagner's Group campaign on Moscow. Purges have begun.
Дорогие друзья, сегодня еще раз обращаюсь ко всем гражданам России. Подчеркну, с самого начала событий незамедлительно были приняты все необходимые решения по нейтрализации возникшей угрозы, по защите конституционного строя, жизни и безопасности наших граждан.
And now Putin is trying to restore his damaged reputation by any means possible and pretend that everything is fine. Putin or his body doubles traveling and shaking hands with people, and before, people should be on quarantine over the 10 days just to be able to meet Putin, just 2 weeks ago. And now he shaking hands with people, kissing people. I want to say that coups like Prigozhin's doesn't appear out of thin air. It was prepared, it was supported by military at some point because nobody stopped him. Only a few pilots, I think right now confirmed 13 people dead, who actually fight against him. And he knocked down those planes and helicopters and killed those people. But nobody actually stopped him. He get up to Moscow. It means Putin regime is not popular. People doesn't want to support him. No one so far has seen General Surovikin or General Armageddon for about a week or so. Some sources claim that he was arrested for assisting Prigozhin. Other refers that to Western intelligence and even Financial Times to say that Surovikin knew about the planned rebellion, which is why he was questioned by military prosecutor's office for several days. But Surovikin is still free, it sounds like it. His daughter confirmed that, oh no, nothing happening and so on. So it's hard to say because there are no confirmation that what actually happened. Surovikin actually is an honorable member of Wagner PMC, by the way. But the reality is that hero of Russia and commander-in-chief of air space forces of the country, deputy commander of so-called special military operation in Ukraine, just disappeared for a week and no one knows where he is. And even the army and security forces didn't have information about him because just simply nobody knew. Otherwise it would have leaked by now into the press and so on. Maybe because he has ties with Prigozhin and he was questioned about it. And the latest news about General Surovikin. A director of civil rights organization Russia Behind Bars, Olga Romanova, said that one of her representatives wrote him a postcard and sent it to Lefortovo jail, Lefortovo prison. It's a famous prison in Russia. And the card wasn't returned back to the sender, this is how the human rights activists checking out to find out if there is certain prisoner in certain jail. If he's there, then the parcel or card would be delivered, and if he's not, it would be returned back to the sender. So he probably in that prison, but again, it's unconfirmed at this point, but this is the latest information about that. By the way, Chief of General Staff of Armed Forces of Russian Federation, General Gerasimov, also kind of disappeared, vanished. And so was Shoigu. He just now made a statement about the coup, but before that, for about over a week, he was hiding or was questioned as well, and who knows. Prigozhin himself also disappeared, but he recently come out his speech, a short speech, which I'll show you also in a minute. And I want to say that Prigozhin's rebellion showed cowardice of Putin and his regime and all his elites. Everyone saw that the emperor is naked and Putin's stability is a myth. If the commander of the small military group, actually I want to say that most likely it wasn't 25,000 people with Prigozhin, just about 8,000, because always there are not just army people but support people, mechanics and so on, like they're not really fighters, right? And if that mutiny, coup, rebellion wasn't stopped immediately, not on the border of Russian Federation, not anywhere until it get to Moscow, and it stopped all by itself. It's not really was stopped by the government or anything.
According to the source of Russian VCHK OGPU Telegram channel, Yevgeny Prigozhin is trying to solve the recruitment issue in Belarusian prisons and colonies, and he seems to have already received approval from Alexander Lukashenko. All that remains is to find a reason for recruitment. VCHK OGPU source told about the prospects of Wagner PMC. The mercenaries were told that almost all of the group is going to Belarus. Those who remain in Russian Federation for the most part will remain near Luhansk. According to the interlocutor, all the key figures are now located in Belarus, including the head of the PMC, Yevgeny Prigozhin. And after several days in silence, Prigozhin recorded a new audio message. He said his march for justice was intended to fight the traitors and mobilize society, promising that you will soon see our next victories on the front.
Сегодня нам как никогда нужна ваша поддержка. Спасибо вам за это.
So who is the traitor? Prigozhin dumped his troops and betrayed them as much as Putin, who ran away from Moscow. So I am very surprised to hear that he is thinking about something staying in Belarus. I saw the pictures about that in Belarus they kind of building camps, but as far as I know, until today, like even today, there are no proofs that Wagner troops are actually in Belarus. I did not see confirmation on that until just about now in that Warthog defense. And as to Prigozhin, this video was the only one which I saw for all this time since the coup, except there was information that Prigozhin visited St. Petersburg. This is the channel of Jake Bro, and it sounds like maybe Prigozhin with his bodyguard visited St. Petersburg, but at the same time they were saying that Prigozhin missing part of his finger, and there is a picture, and for this guy he has all his fingers intact, so it maybe wasn't a Prigozhin. Warthog Defense is a reliable channel, but I highly doubt, like I don't see any confirmation from anywhere else that Prigozhin troops are in Belarus so far. Another thing Fontanka said that Prigozhin received back the gun which Minister of Defense Shoigu presented to him in the past, and it was signed by Shoigu. Of course, it was before the rebellion, coup. And the whole arsenal of weapons found in the house of Yevgeny Prigozhin during search was returned to him. This time, it sounded like Prigozhin came in person, and he received 2 gun Saiga and Austrian gun Sermanlicher and semi-automatic ARKA and several rifles and handguns. The most famous thing of his collection was a handgun Glock, and it's signed by Sergei Shoigu. So Prigozhin was flying around St. Petersburg in helicopter and solving his problems, and received his arsenal back. And no problem, no big deal, apparently, that he just made a coup and almost overthrew the government and killed people. But no big deal, apparently, in Russia. And he received his money back. Also, there is information that not only Prigozhin himself, but his doubles also, it seems like, going around. So the man who Jake Brosha was showing probably wasn't Prigozhin himself. But Prigozhin was in St. Petersburg, and there is information he was in Moscow as well. This again proves there is no law in Russia. Absolutely none whatsoever. Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu finally commented on a rebellion or a coup of Prigozhin.
Речь идет о попытке 23-25 июня дестабилизировать обстановку в России. Эти планы провалились прежде всего потому, что личный состав вооруженных сил проявил верность присяге и воинскому долгу. Провокация не повлияла на действия группировок войск. Военнослужащие мужественно и самоотверженно продолжали решать возложенные на них задачи.
Yeah, right. We all saw how it all happened and how didn't stop Prigozhin until he get to Moscow. And the problem is right now Putin and Shoigu and everybody trying to say, oh, they were so brave, they stopped anything. Nobody stopped anybody. So they're rewarding people who did nothing. Guess what's gonna happen next? They're gonna punish people who actually did nothing. FSB and military, they all will try to find somebody to blame. Because they need to show that they're actually working. They need to show that they're actually doing anything, doing something. That is why they would grab anybody who will happen to be in their own place in their own time. How do I know that? Because it happened in Russia in Stalin times. Some Russians wanted back to the USSR, they're already there. They wanted to see it happening and the strong leader doing stuff. Here it is. Purges already begun, and already some officers getting arrested, and already FSB looking for people to blame. And they will find them. No doubt about that. That's what police in Rostov-on-Don is doing right now. They pretending that during the coup they were capturing criminals and caught few people and this and that. But people didn't stop Prigozhin either. And the reason for that solidarity is quite simple. The state treating its citizens like trash. They don't care about Russian citizens. Neither Putin, no Shoigu, no Prigozhin, nobody. And it's always was like that. During the USSR time, during Russian time, even during Gorbachev time. The problem isn't even local issues, such as lack of equipment, ammunition, poor supply lines, or something like that, corruption, glowing basically military incompetence in Russian army, and in every officer, including 4-star generals. Russian government is a corrupted bunch of thugs who turn a blind eye to the problems of Russian people for way too long, and people just tired. And that's why neither Russian people nor Russian army stopped a coup, because they wanted to get rid of Putin. And they not stop Wagner. And if that would have happened, Prigozhin wouldn't have captured two cities with the population over 1 million people. It wouldn't happen. And he came close to Moscow, that is why. And crumbling Russian economy, raising prices, very little salaries and so on, it's piling up. As an economist, I can say Russian economy gonna collapse. It's not in a good shape. I'll make another video about that. I don't talk about Russian economy because it's fake. Like, no point to talk about fakes. But I will probably make one video about that. Infrastructure crumbling and lack of opportunities. If the best social lift for people to go to war, it tells a lot about Russian society. And that is why some people welcomed Prigozhin and his troops. That is why you saw some people greeting him on the streets and so on. But there wasn't all that many of them. I'll show you the picture from the meeting of Navalny. There was way more people there. This is 2021. This is a protest action for Alexei Navalny. You see how many people. More people didn't come to see Prigozhin because also they don't trust Prigozhin either, but at least as some lady told to the TV Rain station that they basically so tired of Putin, they can follow anybody who'll say, let's go get Moscow. Let's go on Moscow. Even Prigozhin. Not because they like Prigozhin, because they really, really dislike Putin. So the disregard of Russian well-being and Russian people, this is what happened. This is why people like Prigozhin rise, and this is why people were tolerating him and stuff like that. Since Prigozhin's campaign ended, nothing has changed. The Russian government didn't start to look more after Russian people or doing anything to change the situation, which is there are real problems in Russia and government is doing nothing to solve it. And that is why it would be somebody else. Prigozhin just showed the way. And the fact that nobody was punished, if you come out on the street with an empty piece of paper or with a slogan saying that you against war, you will get arrested and you will get years in jail, like Navalny or like Alexei Gorinov, who got 7 years just because he said, let's take a moment of silence about the kids who died in Ukraine, or the Masha Moskaleova, the girl who drew the little picture against the war. Her father got 2 years in jail. But if you come to protest with tanks, then you will get heard, and the Russian government would say you are heroes, and you're not gonna get punished, apparently. That's what Prigozhin's coup showed to people. Clear and simple. And so Girkin Strelkov was right criticizing Putin, and Prigozhin could deceive Russians with his fake support and pretending an oligarch is on their side, and he give them promises of protection and stability as Putin, and neither one of them fulfill those promises. But it could become attraction to some people who really tired with Putin and want some change. But we know better. We know that Prigozhin isn't a savior, and he's not a fighter for democracy. He's a criminal, a war criminal, who killing people with sledgehammer, and Putin paid for it. Putin paid for Prigozhin mercenaries groups killing people, raping people. Nuzhin was killed by sledgehammer. It's all paid by Putin. So Russia is a terrorist state, and it's paying to the terrorist group to do the terrorist activities. That is why Prigozhin and Putin are the same. They are terrorists and the bad guys. And right now, Russia is preparing terrorist attack on Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. And according to President of Ukraine, Zelensky, it is in danger. It's not only mine, but Russian people are leaving it. They said something about that by July 5th they have to leave, but in general, according to Ukrainian military expert Roman Svitan, it sounds like more by 12th, when they would be in, or whatever day would be the NATO meeting. They kind of just trying to get people out of the station before that. Please appeal to your politicians that pressure should be applied on Russia and it has to stop. And Putin and the Russian government, and so is Prigozhin, has no interest in making changes in Russia. They have no interest in stopping the war in Ukraine. And Prigozhin said as much, that despite that he is marching on Moscow to show something to somebody, he's not going to stop the war in Ukraine or interfere with Russia and prevent them from killing Ukrainians. That is why neither of them are good people. But Prigozhin showed people the way, and the situation isn't changing. That is why rebellions will happen again. So, in the end, the fate of Russia is in the hands of Russian people, in the hands of its citizens. I hope they will find the strength to fight Putin, Prigozhin, or anybody, put an end to Putin's regime and his oligarchs and that corruption, stop the war, pay the reparation and compensate for the damage to Ukrainians, and work towards democratic foundations in Russia and building a prosperous, inclusive society for all its people. That's what I'm hopeful for. Thank you for your attention, and have a great day or evening. See you soon.